Nigeria's fiscal landscape is undergoing a major transformation following the end of fuel subsidies, a move that reshaped revenue flows, inflation, and exchange rates. While FAC allocations to states more than doubled from 5.4 trillion naira in 2023 to 11.38 trillion in 2024, rising dependence on federal transfers continues to test fiscal autonomy. The State of States 2025 report offers insight into how subnationals are adapting to this new economic reality. Seun Onibinde, co-founder and CEO of Budget, joins me now. It's a pleasure to have you join me. Good morning. Is that network tripping? All right. So hopefully we can have you join in. We know that this report was just recently released and it does reveal a lot. We know that FAC allocations have also more than doubled from 5.4 trillion in 2023 to 11.38 trillion in 2024. Would you say that this reflects the true fiscal progress, or is it simply a nominal gain eroded by inflation and currency depreciation?
Thank you very much. I think that you're right on the last point, that these gains, we have to situate it in proper context. The states are awash with a lot of money at this point, but these funds are also product of the recent currency devaluation and also the fact that inflation has crept in. You have states now have gotten 100, maybe 2x, some 3x, some might even tripled their income or their revenue in the last 1 year. So that's something that our State of States report reflects, that nominally there's been significant growth in the revenues that have accrued to state. And that's also a bit distorted our methodology, because, I mean, when we were doing this, we're focused on the ability of states to be able to meet their operating expenses from their revenues. Now, all the states can meet their operating expenses by the revenues. In fact, we've seen the capital expenditure also growing strongly. The only thing we are not sure of is the quality of the capital expenditure, if it meets the standard that it's supposed to be at the end of the day, because we see more investment in roads and bridges, but not enough on education or health. But what's very, very clear is that states are getting much more revenue than usual.
All right, so more revenue, but quality spending is still under question. Looking at some of the best performers, Anambra State, they clinched the best performing state in the Federation, replacing Rivers State. Lagos is still number 2. Let us into the dynamics informing this reshuffle.
Yeah, first of all, we did not rate Rivers for this current report. And the reason it's a bit sad, because at the point we wanted to use the audited statements. I mean, that's the basic, the state government published a lot of reports, the budget performance index in reports, they publish the audit statement, but we have always been clear that we prefer to use the audited statement of the state that is statutorily signed by the Auditor General, and the Accountant General has also notes within it. Unfortunately, time of compilation of the report, Rivers had not produced that. Also, we realized that's also because of the challenges. I mean, the state of emergency led to the removal of elected officials in those states. And so that's given Anambra the opportunity to come first on the State of State Index for 2025. And then if you see that Lagos has always, since we began the process of the State of State, Lagos has always been in the top 3 states. And because of Anambra also has made significant gains in improving his macros. He's reining on his debt. He's also ensured that his revenue has grown. He has also invested a little more in social spending. I know this is an election season for Anambra, but we have made sure that our report is as objective as possible.
Yeah, and coming to Lagos State, they remain the most indebted subnational government in foreign currency terms. Are there any concerns around this, or Lagos will continue to make enough to cover it?
I mean, there are concerns about Lagos State debt, and I think they are also learning their lesson. We had the Deputy Governor of the CBN who talked about the exposure of states to FX-denominated debts. And you know that once devaluation is a double-edged sword. If you are talking about increased revenues for states, it also means that if you borrowed money when it was 200 naira to $1, and you borrowed money when it was 400 naira to a dollar, your repayment plan is now 1,500 naira to a dollar. So they were also thinking through how do they provide FX hedging instruments for states so that this does not significantly hemorrhage their revenues, their future revenues. Obviously, Lagos State, has sound macro fundamentals. If you are the most indebted state, but you are still second on our ranking, it only just shows one thing, that the fiscal resilience of Lagos is still very much there. Just because Lagos State generates significant high GR. Its IGR has crossed over 1 trillion naira, obviously also is also getting a lot of money from FARC. So revenues is also always popping around 1.6 trillion naira already. So obviously it's and we might even hit 2 trillion naira this year. So it's just showing that Lagos, has strong fundamentals. It doesn't mean that it doesn't need to rein in on its foreign debt, because there's a big problem if states are taking a lot of foreign debt, and I think most of them are also learning their lessons. But I don't think the domestic debt market for states might not be there for now, because a lot of states, like I mentioned, they are washed with nominal cash. The thing we also observed is also that most states have not significantly raised personnel cost at the level that it should be. So we have seen significant raises for overhead, for capital project expenditure, but personnel costs have not been raised at the same level. It might be one of the reasons why most of these macro changes that the federal government is making has not trickled down as they should, because workers are still underpaid compared to the current macroeconomic situation that we currently face.
Mm-hmm. And coming to total foreign debt across the states, we're seeing that only reduced by $74 million in 2024. Fiscal year. Should we be concerned about states, especially their exposure to FX rate risks?
It is. It's a big problem. And Lagos, you can see Kaduna. Kaduna at one point was top 5 on our index, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And it went on this FX debt binge, I think in the last administration. And that's significantly now affecting where Kaduna sits on the fiscal responsibility, on the fiscal sustainability index that we have. And you can also see states that are in significantly challenged, like Cross River. They have this overhang of the TINAPA debt. They had a drop, from 5th to 30th. You had Akwa Ibom move forward significantly. You also had UB. UB also was one of the very high-performing states previously, but it has not been able to accelerate its IGR, as we understand, but also has significantly ramped up its debt. So, it's an interplay of debt, expenditure, internal revenues, gross fact that makes up our index. And if you are lagging significantly in one, you are going to face significant challenge as you go along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know we've touched on this. You touched on this a little earlier. Subnational expenditure has ballooned to 15.63 trillion in 2024. Lagos alone is accounting for 15% of that. Are we seeing better service delivery as spending rises, or is there a risk on around fiscal discipline there?
Fiscal discipline has to come in play. And I think that was the central theme of our event yesterday, that there is no way we're going to talk about the budget. We're going to talk about increased spending, increased funding, without us not talking about fiscal discipline. If states are not fiscal discipline, they are not attaching that spending to a kind of vision, it becomes a huge problem. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that even now we have to review our methodology, because now we're analyzing state on fiscal sustainability. But if you're also not investing in education and health, it just means that you're also not sustainable. So next year, when we are doing the ranking, we're going to take a look at the methodology to start imputing your capital, but your budget implementation ratios for health, for education, for things that are social spending, like you start including those things, because it will make our methodology much more robust and much more engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, concerns as well around education and health, you just brought that up. Education and health budgets perform below 70% on average. What does that say about the alignment between state budgets and the actual needs of Nigerians on the ground?
It's worrisome, because, you see that a lot of states are now heavily invested in what I would call the big pipe projects. And maybe it's because those projects, they provide opportunities for waste, sometimes corruption. Because I think that with this amount of money in the hands of state now, you don't expect to see dilapidated schools or non-functional PHCs or in schools without desks. You expect to see that there will be intentional and intense investment in education and health, which are the things that most poor people truly rely on government for in terms of access to public service. I mean, people want to go on roads, it's good, but they also want their children to have equal access to quality education. When they have challenges with their health, they want to be able to have it there. But if you look at it, it's not. We are.
All right, it looks like we have lost audio very briefly there. Hopefully we're able to get him back. Hopefully, Mr. Onipinde, are you muted?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. We lost you for the last 10 seconds or thereabouts.
Okay. I was saying that education, health needs to be more. We need to ramp up investment in it, and we need to incentivize it. So
yeah, all right. Looks like we're having several interruptions there, but of course, the budget state of states report.
Conversations we want to have with people like the World Bank.
Yes, hopefully we're able to. Yes, we did miss. I don't know. Something's happening with the network. We're losing audio from your end. I can hear you now. Hopefully, we don't have any more interruptions. Yes.
I hope so. Yeah. But like I said, we have to incentivize investment in education and health. There is no other answer. There is no other issue to it. If we ourselves will have to reflect it on our index, and we have said to ourselves, we need to change how we measure sustainability. We need to also invest in adding capital performances, budget performances for education, for health, so that also reflects when we discuss the sustainability of states. Because it can't just be about states having more revenue, they're taking less debt, they're spending more. We have to just go much more detailed. We have to break it down detailed, and that would help us understand what should be the average per capita spend for his states, how much is budgeted, even on the health budget, what is the money spent on? Is it on the quality of care of the workers? Is it spent on schools or hospitals and some of those things? We also might also look at how do we attract investments, what the states doing to attract new investment and to create new investment corridors for the state. So that things we might also want to judge as we build what we call the state observatory center. The other thing also is we want to bring FCT into the index. I mean, if you look at it, there is no FCT in the index. In the index is still heavily geared towards the 36 states. So an FCT, apart from Lagos and maybe the Niger Delta state and a few states like maybe Kano, FCT is also one of the most funded regions or the most funded areas in this country. So it's very dangerous not to pay attention to what exactly is happening to the finances of the capital city. Yeah.
All right, a final question. I know you're a very busy man and many things are calling for your attention right now. No state, let's wrap with some good news. No state needed to borrow to meet total operating costs. Let us into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for us. Remember where we're coming from. I mean, as of 2016, 28 out of 36 states could not meet their operating costs. So it's also was having the proper clarity that we're very coming from a bad place. But now, like we've mentioned, revenues have doubled up from 5.4 trillion to 11.83 trillion. So obviously, states now have more money. As of 2023, you have recurring revenue has also grown. Maybe at the time you had the IGR into it to 14.4 trillion. And also states are also ramping up IGR because it's also very helpful that states are saying that IGR is improving significantly. So it's a good news to see that states can now meet the operating costs. But we also know that these are because there are certain fundamentals that are guiding this. Number one is that we now have improved oil production. Number two is that there was a significant currency devaluation. The other part is also that states have not raised operating costs, especially the personnel costs, at the level which it should have been. You know, if your revenue is doubling, obviously you expect that personnel costs will at least grow, you know, by 50%, but we have not seen states do that. Most of the states, personnel costs have grown by 20-25%. It has not been at the same scale of which they are receiving revenue. So obviously they have more money for capital, but it seems that they're also not investing in personnel welfare as it should. Yeah.
Indeed. So, I mean, things are looking up. There's nothing wrong with borrowing. But from what you've said, how are we spending it? And hopefully they're not spending it on just the big pipe projects, but on what really matters and will impact the people. Thank you so much for your time and perspective. Seun Onibinde, the co-founder and CEO of Budget.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here today. Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you.